information coming out. But Portland Police is on the scene, the detectives, etc. I want to say, that I'm saddened that we are here once again in a difficult, challenging, complex situation. But I'm also incredibly grateful for Portlanders. I'm grateful for the way that we have continued to show up over the past year, and we have certainly been tested. And this is no small circumstance. The uncertainty and the fear and the sadness within our community is real. And as the Chief Law Enforcement of the City of Portland, I recognize that, our members recognize that, and we are doing everything in our power to maintain that level of peace and calm and safety. And I want to thank Portlanders who have continued to show up in this space as well, and hopeful that they will do so over the next couple of days, as I'm expecting many to want to express their frustration and disappointment with events today. As I said, this is early on. We do not know the cause, but we are engaged, and hopefully we'll have more information as the evening unfolds. I'm going to turn it over now to Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Chief. And I just want to also just reiterate what he had talked about the city standing tall and really standing together. And I've been before you already too many times under these circumstances, but I'm grateful that every time I do make the call within such a short period of time that the Madam Governor will answer the call, and all of the individuals standing behind me and all of our elected officials and community leaders are standing with us as well. And we've always stood together, and we will continue to stand together. Just one day after the horrific violence in Minnesota, our community here in Portland was witness to a moment of fear, confusion, and heartbreak. Earlier this afternoon, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Violence in our community is devastating. These are not statistics. These are human beings. Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets. The consequences are not abstract. They are felt in hospital rooms and living rooms, in the quiet moments when families try to make sense of what happened, what is happening. We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past. That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place. Our community deserves answers. Our community deserves accountability. And most of all, our community deserves peace. Earlier today, I spoke with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. We shared not just our concerns, but our grief for the families who are suffering, and grief for the recklessness of our federal government. The administration is trying to divide us, to pit communities against one another, to make us fear one another. Portland, this is a moment to hold each other close, to stand together, to remember that our strength has always come from community, compassion, and solidarity. Yesterday, Governor Walz made an appeal to all of us. Today, I want to say clearly that we stand with Minneapolis, we stand with Minnesota, we stand with Chicago, we stand with LA. We stand with every community that is hurting in our nation, every family that is afraid, every person who feels unseen or unheard. ICE agents and their Homeland Security leadership must fully be investigated and held responsible for the violence inflicted on the American people in Minnesota, in Portland, and in all the communities across America. The Federal Protective Service claims values such as service, integrity, honor, and vigilance. This is the moment to live those values, not behind masks, not through intimidation, but through transparency, accountability, most of all, humanity. So thank you. I'd like to turn it over to the Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief Day. Good evening, Oregonians. We are standing here today united as a state, wanting peace and safety in our communities. We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration. This time in our own state, in our largest city, coming just one day after the tragedy in Minnesota. While the details of the incident remain limited, one thing is very clear. When a president endorses tearing families apart and attempts to govern through fear rather than shared values, you foster an environment of lawlessness, recklessness. Trust is essential to maintaining community safety and the rule of law. Federal agents at the direction of the Department of Homeland Security are shattering trust. They are hurting people and they are destroying day by day what we hold dear. Our sense of safety and our literal safety are severely undermined by what happened this afternoon in Portland. I'm so thankful that no one died and more people weren't hurt. The Attorney General and other leaders have been clear about our concerns with the excessive use of force by federal agents in Portland. And today's incident only heightens the need for transparency and accountability. Oregonians deserve clear answers. And I am aligned with the Mayor. The priority right now is a full, completed investigation, not more detentions. My message to the federal government is this: we demand transparency. We demand your cooperation with Portland Police and the Multnomah County DA, because we need to investigate this incident efficiently and effectively so we can rebuild trust with our nation's government. There are those who want to cause chaos, but Oregonians know how to stand up and speak out peacefully. We must remain united in peaceful opposition to efforts to tear our community apart. We must not turn against each other. We must stand neighbor to neighbor. We must not take the bait. And I want to end by saying I'm grateful to the first responders who have been managing this incident today here in Portland. And we stand united with Americans across our country and with Minneapolis and Minnesota in light of these very troubling events. Thank you. I'd now like to hand over the podium to Senator Casey Jama, Democratic leader in the Oregon Senate.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Senator Casey Chama. I also serve as the Senate Majority Leader. I live Hazelwood neighborhood. The incident took place not that far where I live in my home. I'm raising my two children and live with my wife. I have a few messages, but let me start to say this one first. My prayer is to the families and those who are hurt, and I hope they will recover speedily. As I said, I have been in the country about 28 years and I'm a former refugee. I have never thought I will see this moment in the United States of America. This is a challenging time for us. My colleagues and I are working together to ensure that we address this issue at the legislative level. We want to do as best as we can to protect the Oregonians who are fearful, who are scared, who are facing persecution under federal law. So we're going to introduce quite a number of bills that will be trying to minimize the impact of ICE in our community. I'm outraged and angry and frustrated, as many Oregonians are. Let me speak to Oregonians. I share your frustration. And the immigrant refugee community, let me talk directly to them. I share your fear. I share your challenges that we're all facing. And I know that the struggle is real. Let me say this to the Oregonians. Oregonians are welcoming. State of Oregon is welcoming state. We want to keep that way. We want to fight for that. We want to work hard for that. And we want to make sure that all Oregonians feel welcome. Let me say to this, to the federal agencies and the ICE. This is Oregon. We do not need you. You're not welcome. You need to get the hell out of our community. Now I want to turn to the podium to Multnomah County Chair Jessica Figabert Peterson.
Good evening, everyone. If we were living in anything close to normal times, we would not be here right now. We should not be here right now because federal agents should not be in Portland neighborhoods shooting people. We should not be here right now because Renee Nicole Good should be alive and with her family in Minnesota right now. I want everyone to know that Multnomah County stands united in support of our immigrant and refugee neighbors and everyone opposing this injustice. I am proud to be joined tonight by Commissioner Moyer, Commissioner Edwards, and Commissioner Jones-Dixon. Enough is enough. The terror and violence ICE is causing in our neighborhoods must end now. At this moment, we don't know what precipitated the incident, the circumstances that led to the shooting, or the identities of people involved. The FBI will be leading the investigation, and they need to allow local law enforcement to participate, and they need to be transparent and accountable to local governments. We know that this news is incredibly alarming and upsetting. We know what happens today speaks to a fear that we have had since last fall when federal law enforcement and immigration agents first increased their presence in our community. Multnomah County will not stand by as federal governments attack our neighbors. Just this morning, our board unanimously voted to extend an emergency declaration in response to the ongoing harm of ICE activity, and we will keep showing up in every way that we can. During our vote, I shared that over the holidays, my office received a string of emails and calls from neighbors in the Brentwood-Darlington neighborhood who are asking for help to find 2 neighbors who were kidnapped by federal agents the day after Christmas. Both of these people are the primary breadwinners for their families, and their children attend the local elementary school. As a parent, my heart breaks for their families and the whole community that has been impacted by these cruel actions. Add to this the horrific murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minnesota, the dozens of lives that have been lost in ICE detention this year, and now a shooting here in Portland. And we can only conclude that this federal activity is a threat to our entire community and is a threat that is growing every day. In light of this, our community is calling on us to act, to deploy resources to support the families impacted by federal activity, and to do all that's in our power to ensure the safety of neighbors going forward. That's what the state of Oregon, Portland, and Multnomah County leaders have done and will continue to do as we respond to this crisis. That's what the people of Portland have done, representing the best of Portland to the whole nation as we continue to stand up for injustice. Thank you to all of you who have come out to protest the cruel and authoritarian actions of this administration while representing Portland's values. Keep showing up the way you have been. Keep raising your voices. Keep showing everyone who we are. Our neighbors and the literal crosshairs of this administration need your support now more than ever. Our solidarity is our strength. These are dark times. There's no getting around that. But I know that together we will persevere. Thank you. And now I would like to turn it over to Portland City Councilor Loretta Smith.
Good evening. My name is Loretta Smith, and I'm a counselor from District 1. I stand here with my other counselors, Counselor Candace Avalos and Jamie Dunphy. This situation just got real. This is not a PlayStation moment where you can shoot folks and they come back alive again. I live in that district. The struggle is already real for immigrants and refugees who live in our community, in our neighborhoods. And now I have to go home and tell my son and my 3 grandkids that they cannot stop for law enforcement because they're going to be afraid by looking at law enforcement that they might have the same thing happen to them that happened today. That is so unconscionable that just a day later, what happened in Minneapolis happening right here in Portland. This is very personal for me. And people who look like me, they shouldn't be afraid to walk around in their neighborhoods, walking to school in the morning with their kids. They should feel comfortable in their neighborhoods. And now we're disarmed now. We don't know who to trust. But I want to say here, I support the mayor, I support the governor in their efforts to do the things that we need to do to get ICE out of our state, in our city, in our neighborhoods. The harassment, the violence, the unconscionable walking around and infiltrating our communities as if we're some sort of third world country. It's not cool. And it's not something that we should support. I feel good, I feel strong standing next to my elected leaders and my community leaders behind me. We have to do whatever we need to do to make sure that ICE is no more.
I'd like to introduce Latino Network and Tony DeFalco.
Good evening. Tony DeFalco, Executive Director at Latino Network. We are hurting tonight in our community. We are tired of this violence in our community, and we're pissed off. Just last week, we buried one of our young people from gun violence, not less than a mile from this site at 148th and Burnside. This kind of violence is nothing new to our neighborhoods here in Portland and Multnomah County, and we've been working hard for decades to reduce this trend of gun violence by private individuals, but worse, by state-sponsored violence in our neighborhoods. And for this to happen tonight, in many ways, is not a surprise to us. It has been perpetrated upon us for many, many decades as part of routine operations to balance power against our community. So tonight, we have a few calls to action. One, we call on our state leadership to continue its efforts to minimize the role of federal authorities in our communities and to enact legislation in the short session that allows for private right to action, to sue, to enable our Attorney General and others to bring charges against the perpetrators of these violent acts, and to go even further to protect immigrant communities from this ongoing violence and oppression. Two, we desperately need investment in our community. We are picking up the pieces. 2 weeks ago, 2 mothers were taken from their families. In our community, the mothers are the glue that holds everything together. And by targeting mothers, they are trying to rip away the fabric of our very community. The ability to take care of our young people, to take care of entire families, and to match up breadwinners, resources that are coming in with the ability to get kids to school, get kids into preschool, is absolutely devastating to us. And we are desperately trying to fill the gaps by providing wraparound supports to our communities in the form of rent eviction prevention, food, other necessary things coming from these violent acts of detention and now physical violence. Those resources are not coming from our state yet. We need those resources to come from our state immediately. And last, we are gathering tonight to mourn this act of violence at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, and we're asking all those that are watching or reading tonight to join us to honor all of those that have been impacted by these violent acts by our federal agencies over the last several months, and to know that we cannot be ripped apart despite these intentions of our federal government. We will continue to hold each other close and continue to be the strong fabric that our entire city, county, and state need from our Latino community. Thank you. Next up, Pastors Hennessy and Knutson.
Go ahead, Reverend.
I'm not going to choose.
Go ahead, you lead. Come close. Come close.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Dr. J.W. Matt Hennessy, the pastor of the historic Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church here in Portland, and also the leader of the Interfaith Peace and Action Collaborative. My friends, I echo very comments that have already been made, and I want to be clear about that. The comments of recognizing that the reason why federal agents are here is because of a false narrative in the first place, when people were told that Portland was on fire, Portland was burning. Portland is a great city, and it's a city I've been a member of for the last 37 years, and I'm not going to let anybody try to make it any worse. One thing's for sure, we have our issues, just like every city does, but we are determined to work together to make sure that we resolve the problems or issues or challenges we have, and we do not need help from the federal agencies to do in more. If they want to do anything, they should go back and restore the grant money that was there that we use to build bridges with police and community. They ought to be thinking about how we restore money to bridges like the Burnside Bridge and things of that nature. That's what we need. But until then, we're not going to let anybody take our joy. We're not going to let anybody cause us to be afraid. And I want the immigrant community, and specifically, as Tony just spoke about the Latinx community, we are with you. As faith leaders, as members of the Black community, I want you to know you are our brothers and sisters, and nobody is going to stop us, and nobody is going to break the chain of our belief in working together. So we will work together. Those who came before us and the allies who worked with them, they had worse situations going on, but nothing stopped them. And I end on the fact that I still recall that one of my favorite verses of We Shall Overcome is the verse that says, we are not afraid. We are not afraid, and we will not be made to fear. We are going to rise above it, reach out to one another, and do everything that we can to work together, pray together, protest together, peacefully together, and remember, let's not take the bait. We can do this peacefully, and peace and love always win.
Reverend Dr. Stone with me now.
Thank you, Dr. Hennessy, and to the mayor and the governor, thanks for your leadership and all the elected leaders, Chief Day, and all our friends, Tony and the rest. My name is Reverend Dr. W.J. Mark Knutson, Senior Pastor, Augustana Lutheran Church, a church that declared sanctuary my first year there 30 years ago because people were facing deportation. We're in a lawsuit right now with the federal government, with Pacun, our church, a church in Florida, a large Catholic church in San Diego, and the Interfaith Council of San Francisco. It's moving now quickly in the courts. And the National Education Association has joined that as well. So around this country and this city and state, people are weaving together a movement built on nonviolent direct action to challenge what is into something that can be new. I do want to say to the press today, we celebrate your work. You're not fake, you do real news, and you are storytellers. There wouldn't have been a civil rights movement or a farm workers movement in the same manner without the press being there to cover it. So thank you, and know you're valued. Let me say this, my 1 minute's almost up. I followed a Baptist pastor, so I can take a little bit more time. But I want to say this. We're coming up on the King weekend. And a year ago, we backed our 30th King service back a week until this new administration came into office. Mayor, you came and spoke at that. and we packed the church. People were ready a year ago, January, to stand up and stand solidarity. Our prayers are number one with our immigrant siblings, the couple that's in trouble today. We have members from 23 countries. I don't know if that's not one of our members from Venezuela and his wife. It's going through all of our minds. Some of my colleagues say, you were crying. I was crying. We are all crying. We are so torn in this moment, and with a very diverse family myself, as a white male, I can drive around, but my son, my wife, my grandson, daughter, others, our biggest extended family, it's dangerous out there. And so to know this, the faith community, Interfaith, we work closely together in Oregon. Our Native American spiritual leaders on whose land we stand, Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, Hindu leaders, Sikh leaders, Christian leaders, other people of faith and people of just goodwill to say enough is enough. This cannot continue. It is inhuman. With King's celebration coming up in just a week, his last couple sermons at Ebenezer and then at the National Cathedral and then at Riverside Church in New York, he said the biggest purveyor of violence in the world in 1968, the week before he was murdered, is our own government. Those words 60 years later train truly, because we have sisters and brothers who are us, our brown and black siblings, our LGBTQ members are afraid tonight, and we should all be standing in fear and holding together one another and saying to this man in the White House, and I know you're watching, I'll call you out, study your scripture. Don't be doing theological malpractice. Study your scriptures. What does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with the Creator and with one another. And in that spirit, Oregon, you've shown we can do this nonviolently. Read the 6 principles of nonviolent direct action. Keep doing what you are doing in a peaceful way. We shall overcome. God bless all of you. God bless our elected leaders, our civic leaders. All of us together, we can do this. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Jessica Maravilla with the ACLU.
This is tall. Okay. Good evening. My name is Jessica Maravilla, and I'm the Policy Director for the ACLU of Oregon. We're an organization dedicated to protecting civil liberties and civil rights, and a core part of our work is defending immigrant and refugee rights. As you heard today, less than 24 hours after Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by ICE in Minneapolis, 2 people in our communities were shot by ICE here in Portland. Our hearts are with those who were injured, their families, and with everyone carrying fear tonight, because this is not an isolated incident. This is the continuation of ICE harming our communities. While there is still much we don't know, we do know this. People are in the hospital tonight because of the actions taken by our federal government, funded by our tax dollars. And this did not happen in isolation. For months, federal immigration agencies have operated with impunity, deploying heavily armed agents into American communities, smashing car windows, dragging people from their vehicles, tear gassing peaceful protesters, and terrorizing neighborhoods. This is what it looks like when a government brings a war posture into everyday life, into streets, into sidewalks, and communities where people are supposed to be safe. Si sienten rabia, no están exagerando. Esta no es seguridad. No es seguridad pública. Es intimidación como política. Everyone deserves dignity. People deserve to go to work, to take their kids to school, to go to medical appointments, to live their everyday lives, and stand in solidarity with neighbors being harmed, without fear of being detained, harmed, or killed by the federal government. Nadie debería vivir con miedo simplemente por existir. No human being is collateral damage. Renee Good and the 2 community members shot today are human beings. They are our neighbors. Her death, alongside the violence we witness here today, is a warning about what happens when cruelty is normalized and accountability disappears. This is about law versus lawlessness, dignity versus fear, and whether we will tolerate violence carried out in our name. We cannot undo what has already happened, but we can refuse what comes next. We can demand accountability, insist on transparency, and stand together calmly, firmly, and peacefully to protect one another. La verdadera seguridad nace de la comunidad, del respeto y de los derechos humanos. Y eso es lo que seguiremos defendiendo juntos. We are working with our state elected leaders to advance legislation next month, and we want to demand more transparency, meaningful accountability, because public safety must never come at the expense of human rights. As our community is now saying, enough is enough. Not a slogan, as a practice. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, everyone. Mi nombre es Andrea Valderrama, el representante estatal del Distrito 47, Outer East Portland. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Valderrama. I'm the state representative of House District 47, and I live in the Hazelwood neighborhood. I am horrified by the violence that we've heard about just down the street from my house where I was today. My heart goes out to those hurt today. I've been proud to be the first proven American to serve in the Oregon legislature. My family came to this country fleeing really the same type of violent tactics that we're seeing in my neighborhood and in this city and across this country today. And so it was so difficult to have yet another conversation with my daughter today about the violence that we're seeing in our neighborhood, and to hear from her the support that her school is providing for children who are terrified of walking home, who are terrified of participating in their extracurricular activities, who are unable to just pay attention in their classrooms. I absolutely stand against separating families, against destabilizing our kiddos and our families in this moment. Our communities deserve to stay together. Everyone's families and mothers and children deserve to stay together. This legislative session, I'll be bringing forward legislation to continue to strengthen and protect child stabilization, post-detention and deportation. And I'll share updates as soon as possible on the situation in my neighborhood. I think the last thing that I just wanted to share is, as we are horrified and as I continue to mourn and do what I can as a mother to remain calm and provide peaceful support to her, I continue to feel hope with all of the incredible leaders that we have in this state, from our governor all the way down to our school district, to our neighborhood. I know that in Oregon, we are resisting peacefully. We are resisting in the way that we can. And I want to thank everyone here today and the leaders, whether you are a fellow mom in the neighborhood or our state governor. I'm so appreciative of all of the support, and know that we continue to resist always and stand with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Valderrama, and to all of our speakers. We have some time for some Q&A right now. I just want to remind everyone, this event happened just a few hours ago. The investigation is just getting off the ground, and nobody in this room is directly involved with that investigation. So please keep that in mind. It would be irresponsible for anyone up here to speculate on what exactly happened. All that said, we thought it was important to address this incident. With that, we'll take Q&A. Please state your name and who you're with and who the question's for. We'll start with Anna Griffin.
Anna Griffin from the New York Times. Governor, Mayor, and Tuesday, what are you actually hearing from the feds right now? Are they communicating with you? Because it seems like we have very little detail locally.
Yeah, shortly after this event occurred, I did have a phone call with the Assistant Special Agent in charge here in Portland of the FBI, and we've been in regular communication with them. We, of course, were on scene, as I mentioned, out on 148th and Burnside, and as well as Portland Adventist, where federal officers were. So we quickly had, sergeants on scene to collaborate with their supervisors. So we are in communication as of just before this briefing, knowing that, we're in communication with one another. But it is their primary responsibility, primarily the lead. And so, as Mike already commented, it's, really would be speculation much beyond the fact that we are talking to one another in terms of, responsibilities, who's doing what, et cetera.
Are you hearing from DHS, Governor?
No, I've not spoken with the federal government at all.
I'm Chief Day Adrian Thomas with KPTV. DHS put out a statement this afternoon on this incident saying that one of the individuals was connected to a previous shooting in Fort that true, and do you have any information on that? And what are the conditions of these two individuals right now?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the statement that was put out. I can't comment on whether or not that's the case. We don't know who these individuals are. We have not, they haven't been identified or shared their identification with us. And I don't know this. I don't know the condition of them at this time, just knowing that they were taken to local hospitals.
John Adams from KGW. We saw in the incident in Minnesota that there was surveillance video readily available after the incident. Are you aware of any surveillance video that may have captured this incident?
I'm not aware of any at this time, no. Have not seen any.
Hi there, Chief. Shane Dixon Kavanaugh, reporter with the Oregonian. Do you know whether or not Train Day Aragua is active in Portland?
I don't have any information that would link that at this time, no.
Yeah, Alex Wilson with OPB. Do you know the nationality of the folks who were today?
No, I've heard a lot of different comments. I don't want to comment on that. I can't be specific. I've heard different references, and it might be confusing some of that information. So, no, I don't have that specifically.
KXL in the Oregon Living News Network, Heather Roberts. Is this a normal course of action? Is this standard procedure to have the FBI lead a shooting investigation, a law enforcement involved shooting investigation inside the city limits?
Yeah, on the federal side it is, yes. And I've been clear since we started down this road, in January of last year, that we've continued to keep open lines of communication with our federal partners, for, unfortunately, even moments like this. But on a local level, we value the ability to be able to pick up the phone, to call one another, to try and figure it out, understanding there's limitations, as we have tried to work through over the last year. And so we are present in a role that's supportive of trying to make sure that this is done equitably and accurately, safely, but they are the primary lead on it.
Well, Jones with .6 News. My question is, federal statements suggest that this vehicle was allegedly weaponized against agents. Do your officers have any evidence to suggest that claim is true or to justify the use of deadly force?
Okay, the question was whether or not there's been any evidence to support a statement that was made that the vehicle was weaponized in this event, correct? Is that the question? And we don't have any information on that. As I mentioned, we responded after the fact to both the shooting scene. Once we were at the shooting scene, the vehicle was already gone, because then 6 or 7 minutes later, we responded to where the victims had called 911. So we don't have any firsthand information. Excuse me?
Were the federal agents involved in this shooting still on the ground when officers arrived?
Yes, there were federal officers both at the original scene and then federal officers at the scene farther away. But we don't have any information to confirm or deny, the behavior of the vehicle, the use of the vehicle.
Yes, Courtney Baum with the Portland Mercury. I know recently federal agencies, DHS, has asked you for investigative files related to arrests. Are you in a position to be able to ask for the same thing of these federal officers? Is the FBI going to keep you apprised? Are you in a position to be asked for records related to the investigation the same way they've asked the Portland Police Bureau?
Well, the question is whether or not we are in a position to ask for records, documentation in a manner similar to how the Department of Justice is asking them of the Portland Police Bureau right now. I think you're referencing our settlement agreement. So it's not quite an apples to apples comparison. There's, a couple of different things there that are nuanced. Certainly there is an opportunity for whether it be the city of Portland or the state of Oregon to make a request for that information. I mean, from a public record standpoint, whether or not that process will bear any fruit, I don't know. Different than the conversation we're having around the Department of Justice attempting to utilize settlement agreement to retrieve information that we believe they don't need to have access to.
Do you expect the FBI to keep you apprised of the status of the investigation as it unfolds?
Well, this is uncharted territory for us. I'm not exactly sure. Frankly, there's a lot of competing interests, as we know, in this area. I value, like I said, our local partnerships and the communication and transparency that we have shared. But there's also a lot of cooks in the kitchen here with a lot of strong opinions. And all I can say is, in the moment, we have had lines of communication. Whether that will change or not over the course of time, I don't know.
Do you have a sense of how many federal officers were involved in this
No, I don't have the details of that right now.
Anything else?
Question. My name is Ernesto, Chief Executive of Hacienda CDC. Chief Day, what is your assessment regarding the national trend in terms of involving ICE, Border Patrol agents, and so on and so forth? They're always right. So what makes us believe that any investigation that they conduct will be accurate, just, and real? And what is the role of our authorities locally to unravel, to counter? If you're not involved at all, what makes us believe that they are already sacrificing and saying things online and in public outlets that these people were from Tren de Aragua, that they were from a prostitution ring, and so on and so forth? I mean, they already made the judgment. In Minnesota, you already saw this. They stepped away from involving local police enforcement and kept that investigation with just the FBI, which obviously is going to lean towards benefiting the federal government entirely. I mean, I don't trust the federal government whatsoever. So what are we doing, to counter that kind of misinformation they provide?
Yeah, and just to summarize, I want to make sure I'm hearing the question correctly, is, what are we doing specifically to challenge or potentially counter the narrative or the description of events or the results of the investigations, et cetera. And this has really been sort of the crux of the conversation over the last year, and it's something that weighs heavily on me as a local law enforcement leader. What is the position not only of, myself, but also the Portland Police Bureau in general? We are, actively working with as many folks as we can, whether it be our city attorney, the Attorney General's office, the governor's office, et cetera, the mayor. We are constantly evaluating what is our role. The challenge, I think, that many of us are facing, understandably so, is the want for certainty, the want for clarity, and what saddens me in this process is the tearing down of legitimacy around law enforcement, and something that we have worked so hard for in this community. I stood here just a moment ago thinking that this is really an example about how joy and sorrow can coexist at the same time, because this room represents something that's unique in terms of, as a police chief, in terms of the relationship for community. So I hear what you're saying, and to answer your question specifically, at any opportunity that we have that we're able to step in, much like we are doing tonight, we try to take advantage of that, and not take advantage of that in a bad way, take advantage of that in a sense that we want to be available to determine as much information as we can to try and bring legitimacy to the process. But there are, long-standing historical court decisions and authorities granted to the federal government that are certainly being tested over the last year in the area specific of policing. And we rely upon, the counsel of others, attorneys, and the rulings from judges. We saw this in the court case that we had with the National Guard. You had 3 Portland police commanders testify. We were the only ones who testified on behalf of the city of Portland, was 3 Portland police leaders over the course of 2 days, which the judge agreed with to prevent the National Guard from being deployed in Portland. And that was based upon the work we had been doing in terms of gathering information, staying true to the rule of law, being factual in our reporting. So the best that I can offer, and I know this is hollow and not enough, but the best that I can offer is that Portland Police Bureau will continue to adhere to the rule of law. We will continue to document. We will continue to be engaged. We will continue to be vigilant. We will continue to report behavior that is illegal or certainly outside the lines, but we are also going to continue to show up for all of Portlanders.
We have time for one more. Go ahead.
John Rudolph.
You two next, and we got
a brief question. Homeland Security put out a tweet on X a couple of hours ago alleging a whole array of facts about the shooting. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, but I have no information to verify the validity or accuracy of it.
Last question.
Natalie Fertig with Politico. My question is for the governor. I know you've spoken to the president in the past, sometimes when there's been situations sort of similar to this. Have you reached out to the White House? Are you trying to have a conversation with him about this?
Well, this is a fast-moving situation just from this afternoon. I have not spoken to anyone in the administration, but I have been in contact with Governor Walz in Minnesota. And I just want to reiterate that we in Oregon are shocked and saddened by what happened in Minneapolis, and that Americans across the country, including governors, are standing together to say we need something to change from the federal government. There's always a moment that things can be better and different. Maybe this will be that moment where we actually have partnership with our federal government to understand the facts, get to the bottom of this, and stop the violence in our communities. And I know that governors around the country believe that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you for being here again on such short notice. At this point, I do not anticipate another briefing or news conference this evening, but I know my team and the communications team for the city is engaged and will be throughout the coming hours and days, so be on the lookout for communication from our teams. With that, thank you for being here and have a safe evening.
You guys want to?
Sir?
Hey, good to see you. I wanted to say that visit the People of Faith rally on New